Hello and welcome to another episode of PsycKicks. My name is Liv, and this is the podcast where we talk about all things spiritual, metaphysical, paranormal, and in between. And as a psychic medium, I'm interested in these things, which is why I have a podcast about it. And as a professional, I do private medium readings, pet readings, plant readings, house readings, things that I did not know that as a psychic medium I was able to channel the energy of and therefore communicate in a psychic sense. And, because of that, I've gained a lot of perspective and just interesting stories and ideas and theories about spiritual things. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. Last week, I was going to tell you guys about how I had like a different perspective about something, or like I was going to share someone else's perspective about something that I have ideas and opinions on, and how theirs is a little bit different. And I don't know, like a year or two ago, I would probably be like, I don't agree with that. But I've been wondering how to incorporate this more as this idea of spirituality being something that is fluid and hard to concretely, if that's a word, conceptualize and quantify. Because like in the past couple podcasts that I've been saying, I've been learning that spirituality is easier to compare to a Rorschach test than saying that anything in the spiritual world or thereof is something that could ever be set in stone, or like this is the absolute truth type of thing. So I was going to share about reincarnation and my friend's husband's perspective on it as a Christian man. Because if you don't know and you're new to the podcast, hello. I already told you I'm a medium, and I'm a very spiritually, I would say I'm a spiritualist, quote unquote. But I'm not like set on one religion, and the only church that I've ever been to was Lutheran church with my friend when we were growing up, and that's probably like maybe a dozen times, give or take. I would go to church with my friend Abby on Sunday. So I don't have any specific set religious ideas except for being a white girl that lives in the United States, and the United States is primarily Christian and or Catholic with subset derivations like Lutheran, Baptist, and things like that. But other than existing in pop culture and society, I don't have an idea or impression of certain religions. So I just wanted to share like the ideas that I have had from other people. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about today. So what I said was there's this overarching theme of that so many people, I've been doing this professionally for 4 years now, give or take, more like give or take, but anyways, like about 4 years. And I've always known that I'm a psychic medium. I just haven't ever done it professionally until 4 years ago, or used my gifts, offered them as a professional service in order to make a living and sustain my existence. And I've learned in that time within poking around the spiritual community, for lack of a better words, I don't know, just reading and learning about other people's ideas and perspectives about deities and gods and goddesses and witchcraft and folklore and all this other stuff, that no one is wrong and no one is right, because as I've been sort of comparing spirituality to in the last couple podcasts, is a Rorschach test. And if you guys don't know what the Rorschach test is, it is a psychological test that was developed where a subject is given an ink blot and they're asked, what does this ink blot look like to you? And depending on the answers that the subject gives, or the person that's receiving the test gives the psychiatrist certain information, I guess, about how that person views the world, the things that they've gone through, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not sure how they developed the correlation between what someone sees based on what they like can know about them because of how they interpret the ink blot. But, maybe that's a podcast for another day. But the overarching theme that I wanted to talk about, that I have been discussing with a few of my friends and just learning as a professional in this scope of the world, is that No one is entirely wrong and no one is entirely right, because we are perceiving something that is not physical. I mean, even with physical things, not everyone's always 100% right or 100% wrong. It's just easier to say that someone is wrong or right because we have a physical quantification of it. So one of the things that I want to talk about today was how everything is about people's perspectives. And if you have a different upbringing or a different perspective on life and the world around you, then that's going to influence how you perceive spirituality as a whole. So, if you don't know, because you're new to the podcast, you all have psychic abilities. And those are unique and individualistic to you, but they're also innate psychic abilities. Just like how everyone has the ability to have your 5 physical senses, so see, touch, taste, hear, smell, you also have the ability to use your 6 metaphysical senses, which are synonymous to your 5 physical senses. Now, some of you may be saying like, oh, well, what if you're born deaf, or what if you're born blind, or what if you're born with another disability? That's okay. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it also kind of doesn't matter. That's the thing with spiritual things or with psychic abilities and spirituality. So I have met people who are blind and they're actually really, really, really clairvoyant. And clairvoyant is psychic seeing. So psychic seeing happens in a lot of different ways. It's not just physically seeing something as if you were seeing something with your eyes. You also have the ability to imagine things within your mind. That is another form of clairvoyance, and that is my strongest clairvoyant ability as a medium. Specifically, what I clarify myself as is a mental medium. So I see things within my mind's eye. So just because you're blind doesn't mean that you don't have clairvoyance. So I talked to someone who was blind, and they actually have very strong clairvoyant abilities because they have dreams, and in their dreams are able to see things, which is really, really freaking cool. So it just transcends things. And I've learned too that no religion is wrong and no religion is entirely right. Because again, with how religion has been created, my perception and understanding of it is that people are existing on earth as humans and physical beings, but we all came from spiritualness or energy, as you will, before we are physical beings. The way that I like to explain how I'm able to communicate with souls as a medium is that there is a difference between, or a separation of, the energy of your physical body and the energy of your soul. So when your physical body dies, your energy follows the loss of thermodynamics, being reabsorbed into the universe, but so would your soul. It's just, one stays within the physical realm of earth and the other one exists back in spirit or heaven, wherever it was before. So people have been roaming the earth as physical beings, and because we are both physical and spiritual beings, we are privy to the information around us, or information back from the non-physical existence that we came from, i.e. spirit as a soul. So you're open and able to interpret that soul information in different forms and capacities. So it just depends on whose psychic abilities are grasping at what point or what facet of the universe at a point in time. So it's just like when people create gods and deities, yes, I believe that gods and deities exist because people have been projecting their energy into the idea of them for so long. But I do think that gods and deities are aspects of God, creator, source, whatever you want to call them. So it's like the hierarchy of energy. It's like, imagine there's a disco ball, and the disco ball is God, creator, source, whatever you want to call them, the universe. But then you have light that's shining onto it and reflecting off the little tiny like mirrors on it, right? So imagine a person on earth is a light that is reflecting off of the disco ball, i.e. the universe, God, whatever. And then when the light shines back down, the person is like, oh, it's in my eye. You know what I'm saying? And you perceive that portion of the light off the disco ball. And then they're like, oh, that's information. That's a spiritual download that I'm getting. And that, I think that's how we create the ideas of spirituality that we have today. So it's just aspects of this big, greater thing that we're able to see and perceive because we're a part of it. I really hope that makes sense. I feel like it's already been 10 minutes and I feel like I've just been rambling. It's just because I'm nervous about how to talk about this podcast episode. So basically, I know that's like the third time I've said that in this podcast. My cat's on me. He won't stop. His name's Gatsby. He's new. He's just a lover boy, but I'm not used to having a cat that wants to be like physically attached to my head or like crawl inside me like a tauntaun before, and it's overwhelming me. But I just want to talk about how one of the things my friends and I have been talking about in understanding and growing on our spiritual journey is that there is no one that's wrong and there's no one that's right, because spirit will show you what it is that you need to know about the larger picture, that one little mirror on the disco ball, and it's going to reflect back on you, and you're going to see it through your own prism of light. So imagine your prism, but there's different prisms that people have created to have different lights shine through them. So if one person is more in tune with one frequency of light, they're going to see whatever that white light, because that's what light is, that white light that shines through them, that person, that prism is going to project the color of light that they are in tune with. Some people are pink, some people are black, some people are brown, whatever light color, whatever color you want your prism to be in this analogy is what or how you're going to interpret the spiritual energy that is presented to you. So a lot of people ask me, like, how do my spirit guides communicate with me, or how does spirit communicate with me? They're going to do so in a way that gives you information that resonates with you so that you understand the concept or idea that they're trying to teach you about. Because every time you incarnate, if you believe in reincarnation, which we'll talk about, every time your soul incarnates, you're going to be different. You're going to be learning a new set of lessons or things in a little bit of a twist. You're going to be learning certain lessons, and your spirit guides are going to give that information to you, or the souls and spirits around you are going to give information to you using things that you can understand and that coincide with your understandings and your beliefs. So, for example, when I am speaking to souls, souls will use things that I have seen, I've heard, I've interacted with, things that have happened in my life, because I learned this when I was in art class. I took a drawing class in college, and my professor told us that we cannot, as humans, create something that we have not seen before. So you can't, like, what are they called? Those like cryptids that are just a whole like cacophony of different animals, like a menagerie mashup. So like when people make like unicorns or I don't know, dinosaurs, like dinosaurs might not actually look the way that we see them or think that they'll look like, because technically what we're doing with the idea or conceptualization of dinosaurs is taking things that we have in our natural world and then just mashing them together to try and make something new. But technically, those are ideas that we've already had in our brain that we can conceptualize and then portray on paper. So you can't think of like what is it? Napoleon Dynamite when he's like drying ligers. You can't create something without having a basis for them to give you information of. They're not just going to give you an understanding of something that you haven't had the ingredients, i.e. experiences or media shown in front of you to convey information. For example, sometimes people, when they ask me questions about their spirit guides, will be like, well, what do my spirit guides look like? And I can't tell you what they look like because I don't know what they look like. And I always tell people the way that your spirit guides portray themselves to me is going to be not literal in how they actually look, but it's going to be indicative or symbolic to the characteristics of their personality and how they help you. But 9 times out of 10, that spirit guide or the spirit guide for the person that I'm talking to will give me information that not only makes sense to me, but also makes sense to the person that I'm giving their reading on for their spirit guides. For example, I know that from experience, your spirit guides, if you get a reading with a different medium that does spirit guide readings, that medium will perceive your spirit guides differently than say I will. However, what should be the same is the spirit guide's personality, because your personality, your emotions, that is something that is non-physical, I would say, in a sense. It's not something that we always attribute physical things to emotions, which is sometimes I think why emotions are such a large thing that humans just really think about all the time, because they're tangible, but they're not. And I feel like that is really, really intrinsic to spirituality. It is tangible, but it's not. And that's why we're always grasping at the straws of it. But anyways, so for example, I always try to give people a good comparison of who their spirit guide would be if they were a character or a person or something that evokes an emotion, so that if they ever have an experience with that spirit guide or talk to another medium and that medium brings up the same spirit guide, but they quote unquote look different, they'll know who they're talking about. So I was talking to a lovely person the other day, and their spirit guide was like, listen, if I was a person, I'd be like Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I was like, okay, let me say that, because I haven't gotten an Obi-Wan Kenobi ever since I've been talking to people about their spirit guides when they ask me. So I was like, if your spirit guide, and I got done telling this lovely person like what their spirit guide helps them with, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, okay, spirit guide, who could I tell them you would be like if they met you and they would be able to remember the feeling of you as a person? And they're like, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I tell my client this, and they just start laughing, and they're like, I literally have Star Wars memorabilia in front of me right now, and Obi-Wan just makes 100% sense to me immediately. And I was like, great, cool. I'm glad. And then the other spirit guide that this lovely human being had that wanted to talk to me and share with their person about themselves, they showed me themselves as the cover from the Maroon 5 album, where the lady, like the Maroon 5 album is all like maroon. And then it has like that swooshy lady with the flowers in her hair, and her hair is like super long and brown. She's like, if I was a person, this is what I would look like. And my energy would be that of the album, plus the feelings that are evoked when you see the album cover. And I told that to my client. She was like, that makes so much sense. I love that album, and I love music, and that whole vibe 100% makes so much sense to me. So, we're just trying to they're trying to use things that will give you, or the person that they're talking to, me in the sense, information based on the things that I have seen, experienced, etc. And if they don't have that, then they can't give me information, which is why when you are perceiving spiritual information, it is going to be given to you in a way that makes sense to you and that answers your question in that moment. So I hope I'm explaining that really, really well. I was talking to my friend, and my friend and I have differing opinions on timelines, but they pointed out to me that they don't necessarily think that we have different opinions. It's just that the way spirit shows us things aligns with what we need to hear and see and feel right now. So again, like the prism, imagine spirit as the white light, the universe as the white light, God, creator, source, whatever you want to call them, the higher energy that created all of this. They are the white light. You are a prism, and some prisms only reflect a certain light or will project a certain light. I know in normal prisms, you get all the colors of the rainbow, but in this sense, we're just going to say that you shoot off a certain light or only a couple different colors. That is going to be how you're perceiving the spiritual information. So it's not wrong. It's just that is what spirit needs to flow through you in order to give you the information that you need. So with that being said, I wanted to talk about how different people's perspectives of things can just not be wrong. It's just that their perspectives, their prism, the way that the energy of spirit is flowing through them is a little bit different. So I hope you guys are excited after that 20-minute interlude. I'm going to give you all a quick life update. because people like to listen to my life updates. If that is something you don't want to listen to, I completely understand. Go down to the timestamp below, either in the description if you're listening on the PsycKicks Extras YouTube channel, or just in the show notes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever you're listening to this on, and skip to the next timestamp that is not Liv's life update, because I will put a timestamp when I start talking about myself, and then one after it. So without further ado, this is what is new with moi. Okay, so last night, let's back up. This week has not gone at all how I thought it was going to. And it's just like every day, every week, I feel like I'm going to get a little caught up. I mean, it's not even caught up. I just feel like I'm living my life by deadlines. And by deadlines, I mean just like in overdrive sort of, you know, the silly meme where there's that dog and he's sitting with a cup of coffee and everything around him, including himself, is on fire. And he's just like, this is fine. I just feel like that's where I am right now, and it's okay. It's okay to be on fire, because as long as you're still moving, and it's fine. It's okay if everything's on fire. This week on Tuesday, we got hit. I guess the hurricane's name was Debbie, which it's like, okay, Debbie. Well, can't they give a storm like a more serious, scary, imposing name than Debbie? But anyways, I guess because of Debbie, she, I'm sorry if your name is Debbie, but Debbie took out the power. I was outside with my mom and my son, and he was pushing his little puppy dog walker around. I figured out that if I take him out in our front yard where the sidewalk is and like the driveway, he just is like a man on a mission, because he doesn't have to turn and move as much as he does in the house with his little walker. So he just like screams to the heavens in joy and just like walks even faster with his little puppy dog walker. So we were outside, and it seemed like it was going to rain. There was like thunder in the distance, and I'm like, okay, well, we got like 5-10 more minutes before it looks like it's going to rain, and then we got to take him inside. And all of a sudden I hear like the tornado sirens. And I know every state has the sirens that are different. Like on a certain day of the week, they always play the emergency sirens. And I was like, oh, it's that day of the week. And then I realized it was not that day of the week, and this was not a drill. There was going to be a tornado. And I was like, oh, shiznit. So my power went out. Everything was fine. Everyone was okay. There wasn't any damages, really, honestly, around where I live, besides like a power line actually got chopped in half, but it wasn't a house, and that's all that matters. But we didn't have power for like 2.5-3 days. And yeah, I mean, I think we were very blessed with the situation that happened and how it played out, because my husband and I do have a generator, but our house doesn't have a generator hookup. So it was good enough that we could plug our refrigerator into our generator and a portable AC unit that we've had for like 6-7 years now. So between that, we were good. And we also have a gas stove and a gas powered water heater. So between that, we were able to cook, keep our food, and refrigerate one room of our house so that we could sleep. But it's just been hard. My husband's business hasn't had power, or didn't have power for 2 days. And my husband only gets paid if he's able to do work. And if he can't do work, he doesn't get paid. So at one point he went to, he's a mechanic. He went to one of his friend's shops that had power. He went in and helped out so that he could make some money on one day. But now, because his place of employment was so backed up for 2, almost 3 days, they want everyone working overtime, which is good. But again, he doesn't get paid overtime. When I mean overtime, I mean that in like the not literal sense, more like when Plankton puts SpongeBob into overdrive, like that type of thing. So he's going to be working. He's been working from 6 a.m. until 7 yesterday, today, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's just been a lot. And then last night I was helping my friend who is still recovering from like not having power. So they didn't have any food in their fridge. So I was helping them make dinner because we have food in our fridge. So I was like, it's okay. We got some stuff. So we made dinner for their family. And then I got home with Oak, And my husband he went to bed early. That's why I was also out, so that he could get a couple hours of sleep without the baby and I being in the house. And I go to let Fennel outside, my lovely, lovely dog. She just looks like a bear. She's a Newfoundland. I absolutely adore her. Like, God created one of the softest, sweetest, most just cowardly lion-esque creatures when Fennel was created. And she goes outside to go potty because I know my husband hadn't let her out in a while. It's like 10 o'clock at night last night, right? So I let her outside. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take her outside. She's going to go potty. Then I'm going to put the baby to bed. And then I'm going to go record a podcast, right? It's going to be easy peasy. So I let her outside and then she immediately starts running back. And I was like, something must have scared her. Usually if a squirrel barks at her, she runs like that back inside. Or if the dogs that are adjacent to our backyard bark at her, she runs inside back like that. So I was like, okay, no big deal. I open the door and she's shaking her face, and she's a Newfoundland. So she's got a drooly face in normal circumstances. But this was wet. I'm like, there's things like wet droplets hitting me. Her face is just like making these crazy noises. And then the smell hits me and I realize she's already halfway up the stairs that have carpet on it. And I was like, oh no, I have the baby on my hip and I'm trying to get Fennel, my dog, down the stairs. She got sprayed by a skunk straight in her face, and she was just shaking skunk juice all over the house at 11 o'clock at night, 10:30. It's like, no, I felt so bad. I finally got her to come downstairs. Her eyes are all red. She's just drooling everywhere. And I get her into the garage and I close the door and I'm like, you just have to stay here for a second. I know it's hot and it's dark and it's late and you're probably going to be really sad that I'm just like putting you in here when you need a hug right now, but I need to put the baby to sleep first and then I can take care of you. So I put the baby to sleep. He's good. I go downstairs and I was up until 2 a.m. last night, guys. Oh, just trying to get the smell off of Fennel and cleaning my floors quietly and trying to figure out by nose where she had gone on the stairs and what walls I needed to clean skunk juice off of if she got it on the carpets. And it's just, I felt so bad for her. If you guys want a tip for getting skunk spray off of your dog, this is what has worked, because this is the second time Fennel has gotten sprayed at our house. Our fence in our backyard doesn't sit very low to the ground, so all of the animals just like to come in, and plus we don't use like lawn weed stuff on our lawn, and we have vegetables and flowers, so all of the furry woodland creatures like to come and, create a cohort in our backyard. But if you take dish soap, I just use whatever dish soap you have, and baking soda, put that in a bowl and make like a good sort of paste out of it, and then grab some white vinegar. You're going to make the paste out of the dish soap and the baking soda, and you're going to take it and you're just going to smear it all over your dog. For Fennel, she got sprayed right in the face, all over the front of her legs, all over her chest, behind her ears, and down to her shoulders. So I just mix that paste up and I just run it through her fur, and she's got long fur, as best as I can, just really scrubbing it in there. And it's good because you can get it on like their cheeks and on their muzzle, because that's also exactly where she got sprayed, and like underneath her chin. And because it's a paste, it won't run into their eyes. That's why you got to make it real kind of like sticky. And you just really put it in there, let it sit for like 10 minutes. Then you're going to take your vinegar, put it in a cup or a bottle. I just had a big jug, so I just put it in my hands. And then you're going to, without getting it in their eyes, put the vinegar on all of the spots that you put the paste on, and really rub it in. And then let them sit for like another 10 minutes. So it should be at least 15, 20 minutes at least that you let this stuff sit. I wouldn't let it sit longer than a half an hour. And then you rinse them off really good with the hose or in the bathtub, wherever you are. And 9 times out of 10, it takes like 90% of the smell away, given just the little spots that you can't really get on like the tip of their nose or under their eyes. But Fennel did pretty good. I even washed her eyes out with the hose just because I know that the skunk spray got in her eyes too. So I was just up until 2 doing that last night, but thank God the baby slept the whole time. My husband slept the whole time, and Fennel and I just sat outside, and it wasn't too hot. There was a nice breeze. She air dried a little bit. I put some like good smelling stuff on her. There's this spray that I use. It's called, the brand is Equus or Equus, Eqyss, I think. This is not a sponsor. I just love it. but it's called Marigold spray. My God, it smells delicious. And I just sprayed her whole face down with that and brushed her out, gave her a treat, and we just sat outside for a little bit. And she just was like, I'm sorry, Mom. But, that's what's up with me. Today's one of the last days of the Ren Fair where I live, and I don't know if I'm going to make it just because I still have to clean my carpet. My carpet just smells like skunk, and I don't know where she got skunk juice on it, but it's somewhere. So once I'm done recording this podcast and the baby wakes up, because he's napping right now, that's how I'm doing this, I will clean the carpet too. But that's my life update. Just no power for a couple days. I was using my friend's mobile hotspot on my phone to do readings, and they're a savior, because the mobile hotspot on my phone just doesn't work. I can't even run a potato on it, honestly. So the fact that she was able to help me with that was fabulous. I was able to do our Patreon live and everything, and it was good just to also be able to connect with people, even though you're just not connected. I don't know. The last thing I want to say is, with the power outage, it was nice because it wasn't followed by like a 90 or 100-degree day, which is great. It was actually cool after the storm passed, so having the windows open was fabulous. And when we didn't have the AC machine yet, because my husband had to let a friend borrow it, it wasn't too hot, which was perfect. But what else? Oh, that's what I wanted to say. My husband and I were walking around the neighborhood with the baby one evening because it was nice outside, and it was just like quiet. I don't know. I feel like it's quiet with the electricity, but when the electricity goes out in like the entire neighborhood, it's like a new level of quiet. Do you guys, like, I think like this is something that the people that realize that the fluorescent lights are buzzing, and like when you plug a fan in, even if the fan isn't on or the computer isn't on, there's always like a buzzing coming off of it. I feel like this is something that people that realize those things would appreciate. Do you guys, have you ever like figured out or realized that there's not that hum or that buzzing that you almost can feel but can't hear when all of the power goes out after a storm? Because that's something my husband and I noticed. But okay, anyways, that is the end of my life update. Thank you so much for listening. Now we're going to talk about the stories that I have about, just the different perspectives that people have that I don't think are wrong. It's just that their prism of light that they give off and the things that they use and have available to them as a basis of communication that spirit gives to them to give them ideas. So without further ado, let's talk about that. Okay, so we're going to talk about how your prism of light gives you the reflection that you need to give you the information that is helpful to you via spirit. One of the stories I wanted to talk about was my friend's husband, Brian. So Brian used to be Christian. Oh, no. Brian used to be Catholic, and now he's Christian. And he moved to the Christian faith because of his wife, because Catholicism was just not for her. And for him, I think it was very hard for him to make the transition, but he wanted to support his wife, and so he did. But, like, they're Christian, right? And it's interesting because my friend Katie, that is her name, she lets me talk about, and she doesn't let me, she emboldens me to talk about my spirituality, because I feel like I can't talk about it all the time, except for like in a professional sense. So it's nice to talk to someone about it casually, and just with someone that has a different perspective or different views than me. And it just makes me happy to see like how what I say translates to her, because she's told me a lot of the times that the things that I say, like, I guess spirit guides and the way that I talk about spirit guides. And I've even talked about like her spirit guides, because she's asked me, and I'm like, is that really something that you want to know? And she's like, yeah, I do. Tell me. So I've told her. And for her, I guess spirit guides are the embodiment of the Holy Spirit, which is interesting to me. She just said, my idea of like the Holy Spirit is that everybody has the spirit inside of you, and that they're always with you, and they're always helping to guide you, and that they're a part of you, and that they're always around you. So that's like the same thing as what you tell me spirit guides are, only it's like you compartmentalize the Holy Spirit into aspects or personas, which is interesting to me because I would see it as the same thing, but you see it as a little bit different. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. You know? So like, it just makes me happy that we can talk about these things together. And like a lot of the things that I share about spirituality and the way that I perceive it, she's like, that literally is just the same thing as what I learn about in church through the Bible and Jesus. It's just, you say it in a different way, but the premise is the exact same thing. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. So it's just been interesting because she hasn't told me that aspect of it. She's just let me talk. So it's cool for me to hear what she has to say about what I have to say and how it relates to how she does things. You know, it's just, again, our prisms are different. The white light comes through us and comes out in different colors and we see it differently, but is it the same thing? Yes. So anyways, one of the things I wanted to talk about was we were talking about past lives and reincarnation. And she was telling me how her husband, Brian, does not believe in reincarnation at all. He only believes that when your body passes, the soul that's associated with your physical body now rests. And they just are in heaven and they're happy and yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So it's just, I think that that is right. But I still believe in reincarnation. And this is just what I want to talk about, how spirit shows us things that we need in our life to feel peaceful, but it's not wrong and it's not right and no one's right and no one's wrong. So, okay. With this, Brian believes that your soul rests once it's done. There is no reincarnation. However, I just wanted to talk about how I think that's true, but it's not. So my perception of reincarnation is in past lives. You have to think about it sort of synonymously. Your life that you have right now, your soul, does have past lives and it will have future lives. In my opinion, if you don't believe that, that's entirely fine. You can be just like Brian or other people. However, your past lives, the lives that came before your soul was born or incarnated, I want to say incarnated because born I don't think is the right word. I think your past lives and your future lives are all born at once when your soul is created during the Big Bang, whatever. But the fractions of it that are created after are going to be your past lives, future lives, current lives, etc. So you right now as a soul are completely different and unique to any life that you have lived and will live. Like, if you were in a room of your past lives right now, I can guarantee, just based on the past lives that I've already talked to, that you would get along with some of them, but there would be a lot that you would be like, who are you? You're not me. You're a terrible person. I don't like you. I don't even want to play a board game with you. Get out of here. Like, your past lives are different. So like, I like to use the Avatar idea. So Avatar, The Last Airbender, the cartoon. If you haven't watched it, you should, because even as an adult, I think it's a beautiful thing that has a lot of spiritual ideas built into it. So Avatar, Aang is the character and Aang is the avatar. And it is believed in the show, if you don't know what Avatar is, and it's not the movie with the blue people. It's a cartoon on Cartoon Network it was on Nickelodeon. So Avatar, the Avatar Aang, he has past lives. And every time the Avatar incarnates, it's going to be the same person, quote unquote, but they're incarnated into subsequent lives. So there is Master Roku, who is Aang's most recent past life as someone from a different nation of people. And Aang, in his current life, the character, is from a completely different nation of people. However, they are the same soul, but a different incarnation. So they're very different people, but the same soul. So what I wanted to talk about with this is, I think that your soul, as Brian believes, does rest when it's in heaven, or you pass and you're in spirit, whatever you want to call the realm in which souls exist. I think your soul does rest. I think that once me, as Olivia, dies, my soul is in heaven and it's going to stay there. I'm going to eat ice cream cones. I'm going to talk to Abraham Lincoln. I'm going to talk to Einstein. I'm going to ask Amelia Earhart what's up. I'm going to talk to like Sojourner Truth, like all of that stuff. Like that is the things that I want to do when I'm in heaven. However, my soul will have the chance and the ability to reincarnate. But it's not me. It's an aspect or a fraction of me. So when I was thinking about this and trying to understand Brian's idea of how reincarnation wouldn't be real for him, I do agree. I agree that your soul rests. It's not going to be so tired and so full of rot or anger or anguish or sadness from a past life or having to feel like you have to incarnate in a next life. Like, no, your soul in this life, done, my dude. So the way my spirit guides showed this to me, again, because spirit will show us things in our own way that makes sense to us using things that we have already seen and done and experienced, was trees, because trees for me are very spiritual. So they showed me that your past lives and your higher self are like a tree. So I know I talked about higher selves and past lives just briefly in last week's podcast. So if you guys are new and you haven't listened, go back to last week's podcast to get that analogy too. But I'm going to say it a little bit now. So all of your past lives, future lives, current lives, all of the lives that your soul have lived, both energetically and physically, if that's something that you believe, create your higher self. They are going to be the cells that create the body of your higher spiritual being. So in the analogy of trees, my spirit guides were like, listen, the trunk of the tree, the wood, that part is going to be your higher self. That is what builds and branches and grows and roots into existence in the universe itself energetically. However, your past lives, your future lives, and your current lives are like the leaves that the tree create. Each leaf is individual. It is its own thing. However, it also serves its own purpose in the tree on a specific season, during a certain time, at a certain location on the tree. They're all going to be a little different. One's going to be bigger, one's going to be smaller. One might have curled leaves because it had some sort of disease get to it, or it just didn't grow the right way, or there was something else that was influencing the leaf itself. But every leaf, like a snowflake, is going to be different. And it comes from the tree and it serves a certain purpose. However, when those leaves die, they're done. They fall to the ground and the energy is recycled through the higher self or the trunk of the tree into new leaves. And each of those new leaves are going to be different. They're going to be built off of the experiences or the energetic existence of the last ones, because energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's just a circle merry-go-round of rejuvenation, if you will. But they're all a little bit different. Just like when you have kids too. When you and your partner get together and have a kid, that kid is going to be a little bit of you, a little bit of them, but they're their own person. Their own person. So I, as a medium, believe reincarnation exists and past lives exist because I have communicated and talked to people's past lives. But I also think that your soul rests when it is your time and you are in heaven or spirit. I think it is more of your higher self, which is you and all of your past lives, that say, yes, let's grow another one. Let's reincarnate. Let's learn another life. Then it is just your soul personally that's like, yeah, I'm going to reincarnate. And then poof, you're like not in heaven. Because like, it wouldn't make sense to me too that your soul wouldn't rest, because I've talked to souls who have told me that they are going to reincarnate, or that they already have. However, I'm talking to their soul that they lived, that the person that made a reading with me knew them as. So say you want to talk to your grandfather or your great-grandfather or your great-great-grandfather, and I'm talking to them in heaven. Their soul is in heaven or spirit. But they're like, I've already reincarnated. I'm this person. Or like in our reincarnation podcast, we talk about this boy who had a past life as a pilot. I forget his name. Maybe I'll put it in the show notes if I can find it. But there was a boy who knew who he was, and he even had the same or similar name when he reincarnated. So his soul, his past life soul, was still in heaven or spirit. They're resting there. But he decided to reincarnate, and that was the fraction or the reincarnation of it. So anyways, see, this is just what I wanted to talk about. Like, is Brian wrong saying that reincarnation doesn't exist? No, because he feels that when you pass, your soul rests, which it does. However, the soul or the fraction of you will reincarnate, but it will be different. It will be a new leaf. Brian's leaf will fall to the ground and rest with the rest of them during autumn, but new leaves will pop up, and that will be from the body of their higher self, you know? So it is them, but it isn't them. So this podcast is already getting long again, and I can hear the baby's going to wake up soon. So maybe I will be able to write a sentence to conceptualize how I feel that people aren't wrong. It's just that spirit will show you different things the way that you need to see them, because you're literally interpreting energy, which is physical but not physical all at the same time. So it's like, I don't know, like some mediums deal with certain aspects of spirituality, whether it be like witchy things, whether it be folk witchcraft or ceremonial witchcraft, which I'm learning there's a lot of differences between, which is why I've been so off put personally by the idea of witchcraft. It's because I thought that witchcraft has only been ceremonial witchcraft, but it's not. The type of witchcraft that I have now realized that I just intrinsically or inherently do is more folk witchcraft. But that's a topic for another podcast. But there's different people within the spiritual community that the light of spirit shines through them in a different way, whether it be ceremonial magic, whether it be folk magic, whether it be deities, goddesses, astrology, things like that. But I feel like if you are getting a reading by any of those practitioners, that is because the energy that their light shines through is going to be very similar to the light that you need, that you're looking for, that the answers they'll be able to give you are going to resonate with you and therefore give you the information, the peace, and the clarity that you're looking for. Because, you know, it's just like finding someone to do anything for you as a job, or someone that offers a service. If you're looking for, I'm not saying, please, I am not saying that psychics and mediums and astrologists are like doctors. But if you're looking for someone that's like a massage therapist, or just a therapist, or a doctor, someone that you have to work with in order to feel better or get answers from or insight to, or even a teacher. If you need a teacher, a physical therapist, a doctor, a plumber, whatever, if you jive with that person's energy and the way they're able to explain things to you, then that's going to be the person that you're going to pick. That is the same thing when you are communicating or making a reading with a certain medium or spiritual practitioner. Their energy is going to align with yours, and the way that spirit speaks through them, the light that they shine, is going to be the light that you need, because it's going to give you the information that you do at the point in time that you're living in your life right now. So they're not wrong and they're not right, and no one else is wrong and no one else is more right. That is what I want to talk about, because my friend and I were talking about timelines, and the way that I perceive timelines is helping me to understand and conceptualize things in my own way, as well as people who I talk to. But the way that my friend conceptualized timelines is helping her to understand the things that she needs to understand spiritually, as well as other people that come to her. So, that's just what I want to talk about. So if you're interested in a private reading, please go down to the show notes. There'll be a link for a reading with me. I have availability in August, so this month, as well as September. And if you don't have the time or want to have a reading, or the finances too, I totally understand. I appreciate you listening to this podcast. There's also a YouTube channel. Please go check out our YouTube videos. I want to post more YouTube videos. I just have not had the time physically, mentally, or emotionally. So I have been thinking about it. I'm itching to do a video. I just need to have the resources in order to do so. And once I do, I will be able to. So please go watch what we have on YouTube right now at PsycKicks on YouTube, because that's also fun. People that don't just like listening to faceless people on the internet like a podcast. There's videos too. So anyways, thank you all so much for listening. I will talk about the other ideas of how people's interpretations of spirituality can be perceived differently, but the whole idea of it is still the same. And another podcast, maybe next week. We'll see. It's just more specific ideas that I've gotten from talking to people and doing readings that just sort of drive the point home. So if that's something you're interested in, please let me know in the comments below. But until next week, thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a lovely, beautiful day. Peace.